On this episode, we're talking everything the Gen Z stare, what it is, why it's getting so much attention, and what can people do about it if they get it. All right, so the Gen Z stare is this stare that usually happens in the customer service realm where someone asks a question and then the Gen Z employee just kind of blankly stares at them, doesn't respond, just kind of like blank, shock, baffling look. It usually comes out, like I said, in customer service. The TikTok that keeps getting more and more attention is if a customer asks an employee of a smoothie shop, like, hey, does that strawberry banana smoothie have banana in it? And a lot of the times it's because Gen Z, they might be shocked. They might think that you asked a silly question or it's obvious. And so these are reasons why the Gen Zs are giving us these blank stares. And so why is it getting attention? Anytime there's this intergenerational behavior, it's going to get attention, especially now because we have social media and it's all over TikTok. And so we have the millennials, we have the Gen Xers, we have the boomers, all being like, why are Gen Zs just blankly staring at us? We say hello to them and just blank staring, like, what is this? And so they're posting, videos on TikTok about like, why are they doing this? Like, what is this? And like kind of just demeaning them. And then you have the Gen Z coming back and being like, we don't do it, or you guys ask stupid questions or obvious answers, or so why should we give you a response? And so, or it's like, hey, you guys are doing cringeworthy behavior, so this is why we're giving you the Gen Z stare. And so, but I think another reason is because when we get the Gen Z stare, when the older generations get the Gen Z stare, we kind of feel rejected because it's not what we would typically think about. Like when I ask a question, I typically would expect a response. Even if it's a silly question, there should be like, oh, yes, it does. Like how easy is that? They should say, yes, the strawberry banana smoothie does have banana in it, and then move on about your day. And so I think when we don't respond, it's like stonewalling, or when someone doesn't respond to us, it's stonewalling. We feel rejected. We feel like we're not heard. We feel like we're not seen. And that feels gross because social rejection means death from an evolutionary standpoint. So I think that's why it's getting tons of attention, is because it's this whole thing that between generations, and whenever there's a big thing between generations, that's what happens. Now, okay, so what should we do about it? Lots of people are talking about it. Lots of people are talking about why it's coming out and what it is, and posting their videos about their experiences with the Gen Z stare. But I want to be helpful. I want to help people figure out, what do you do if you get the Gen Z stare? Okay, so first of all, let's talk about if you're the customer and you go in and you're like, you ask a question or you do something and then you get the Gen Z stare. Well, I think the big thing is maybe some self-reflection. Like, did you ask what you thought was like an obvious question? But I don't think you need to like react. I don't think you need to call them out on it because they're already conflict avoidant. But I think one big thing is just go to the manager and be like, hey, I asked a question and this is the response I got. Like maybe you can, work on that with your employee. So I think that's the big thing. Like yes, it's frustrating and you feel rejected, maybe some self-reflection, and then maybe go to the manager and move on. Okay, so that's the first one if you're the customer service. If you are parents, if you do not want your child or your Gen Z doing the Gen Z stare, then teach them basic manners. Teach them how to say hello to people and to respond when people are talking. So I know I do this a lot with my kids. When I say something to them and they don't respond to me, that again makes me feel rejected. So a lot of the time I'll look at them and be like, hey, I need an okay. And so I'll tell them something, and then I'll make sure that all three of my kids are saying okay, that they're acknowledging that I said something to them, that they're acknowledging that they heard me. And so if you're a parent, teach them to say hello and teach them to say okay when people say something to them or people are asking them a question, so that we're learning the skill and then we don't even do the Gen Z stare later on when they're older adults. The last one, say you're the boss, say you're the manager, and someone just came to you and said, hey, this person, your employee just did the Gen Z stare to me. Well, say thank you for letting me know, and then go handle it. pull the person aside, do it in private, and be like, hey, we just got a report that a customer said that you did the Gen Z stare at them, or they, asked you a question and you didn't say anything back to them. Like, we don't do that here. That's not part of our values. And then you're going to teach them what you want them to do instead. And you might be like, I don't need to teach them this, but you do. So there are a lot of Gen Zs are lacking the social skills that we older generations perceive as basic life skills, basic social skills. They don't have them. COVID, the internet, so much screen time, less interactions with in person, less friendships going on. They need to know these things. So you might get frustrated, and yes, it is frustrating, but okay, feel your feels and then go tell them what to do. Maybe you have them do like social etiquette, or maybe you're teaching them social skills for your business. You're gonna get less pushback from customers, you're gonna have more loyal customers. Be the Chick-fil-A of whatever industry that you are in, where whenever someone says something like thank you, they say like it's my pleasure. So build in those kind of social interactions that are just expectations. So again, we're setting these high expectations. For parents, you're saying, okay, I expect you to say okay whenever I talk to you. And then we're putting it in the context of the warm and fuzzies. Bosses, managers, we're setting those expectations. This is what we expect you to, we expect you to behave in this establishment. And then you put it in within that context of high support. That's how we deal with the Gen Z stare. Yes, you can like give it back to them, or you can like call them out on it, or you can like post a video on it, but it's not going to do anything. It's not going to make it better. We are trying to make our society better. We're trying to make Americans better. And so this is what we want to do. We need to teach them what to do instead. That's how we're going to be throat punching this Gen Z mental health crisis.